People often hear,
Hello, my name is Nicolas Polimenakos. I work behind the scenes here at NORWAC, the Northwest Astrological Conference, which is happening May 22nd to the 26th. Today I'm with Anne Ortelee.
Ortley,
Ortley.
Middle East silent. Yep.
Oh, Anne Ortelee.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, when the telemarketers call and go Anne Ortelee, Anne Ortelee, I go, oh, she's not here.
Same thing for me growing up. It was like pulling Menacos. I just knew, like on the
Yeah,
phone, because my last name, and like,
right.
yeah, I
Yeah.
knew who I was dealing with.
It's good to have one of those last names that outs telemarketers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We're here today to talk about the conference that's happening again, May 22nd to the 26th. I want to remind people if you want looking for more information, you can go to norwac.net. The schedule's up there, the lecture titles, registration, all the information's up there. And you're speaking in three different slots.
Three slots, three
Three on
slots.
three slots. And
Luck comes
starting,
in threes.
yeah, you're starting off with a big one too here on the
I know.
Friday. You're doing a pre-conference workshop
Yep.
that's happening May 23rd, uh, Electional Astrology. And it is, I'll read the first sentence here. It's one of the gifts of astrology is choosing the correct moment to
Right.
initiate the most important events in our lives.
Right. And once you're an astrologer, you understand the power of it. And so then you start getting a little worried, like, should I get married? What's my wedding date? Surgery, because you understand how powerful a chart is. So one of the things that we do as astrologers is called electional astrology. And of course, it's kind of an element of responsibility to it because you're picking a time. Now, if you're doing it for a client, versus yourself, there's again another level of responsibility because you're saying, hey, this would be a good date for surgery. This would be a good date for launching your business, buying your house, um, or things that are of import. And so when Laura Nalbandian, who runs the conference, asked me to speak on it, I said, well, I've got good stories and bad stories, where you pick something and you kind of go, oh, or you go, yes. Now, the other part of it is, that the electional chart is a continuation of the ongoing relationship. So your marriage chart is going to match when you met.
Hmm.
And so and sometimes we don't remember when we met, but the marriage chart will reflect the purpose of the relationship, which was shown by the moment you met. So there's a great book by Jeffrey Cornelius called A Moment in Time. And what electional astrology does is says, pick the moment and then how do you work with it, and so we'll go through a list of criteria. You'll get a bunch of handouts. We'll practice with good elections and bad elections, and even if you pick a perfect chart, quote unquote perfect, whatever perfect means. I'm a Virgo, so we have varying definitions of perfect. It can still have some hard transits, and it describes the purpose of the moment or the thing you're doing. So knowing what those are and how to work with them can be very helpful when you navigate those down the road. So it's I believe, a 4 hour workshop, right, Nicholas?
It's a 3 hour workshop
three
that
hour
happens on the
workshop
Friday.
on
Yeah.
Friday.
And
Okay, yeah. So,
yeah. So,
and Laura's pretty tough with timing, but I'll give you a lot of handouts. So
yeah, which
she
is a
doesn't let you run. She doesn't let you run over, right?
yeah,
So,
which is a rare thing now. I've noticed over the years being around conferences and stuff,
yeah,
the actual paper handouts that will happen and so on
yeah,
and so forth. And I also know for those who are, going to purchase this online, that's you're given access to a
yes,
PDF and all
yes,
that
yeah,
kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if you're thinking about attending the conference out there, you can attend for the whole weekend for the regular lectures. You can also separately just attend.
Just do this workshop. Yeah,
Yep,
you don't have
just
to
the
do the
work.
whole conference.
Hmm.
And sometimes, I do have people that just do a workshop because they just want to know that. And the rest of the conference, they got, it's Memorial Day weekend. Maybe they got plans.
Yeah,
But you
for
also
sure.
get a recording that
Hmm.
you then can use. And you will find I do good handouts. I am known for my handouts with my
Hmm.
students. They make binders of them, when they study with me for a period of time. So you'll get a pile of handouts and also techniques and tips and also examples because we always learn from examples.
Definitely,
And
definitely.
sometimes and I'll tell you times when I kind of would argue with the client a little and then I would do what they wanted and then I would get a report back. Can I tell a tale on this? Do I have time?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead.
one of my students getting married, first time for her, second time for her to be husband, and she wanted until death do us part. And there's a way to see that in the charter to pick that. So I said, I don't know. It's like really death do us part. Like, hey, I mean, I can do it, but I really don't know if that's a great idea. She's like, no, no, no. I want to be till Scorpio, right? I want to be till death do us part. I'm like, all right, all right. So we picked the chart. They're getting married in Sedona. They get married on the top of a mountain. And he almost falls off the hill on the
Oh,
way down.
wow.
And he looks at her and he goes, what was that till death do us part thing? And I was like, well, we know it's in the chart, right? So honoring the energy of the moment and the initiation piece. I don't do that anymore. I go, no, 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 we're not doing that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
put down my foot as the astrologer. Now, obviously, you don't have huge control in terms, there's fate and free will. But I always remember that as an example of, yeah, no,
Yeah.
being conscious of what God you're invoking by picking a chart.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Because in the end we're talking somewhat about divination too,
Yes, totally.
and this goes back to somebody you mentioned earlier, like Jeffrey Cornelius, in the book that he wrote called Moment of Astrology, that deals with what we deal with is
Hmm.
divination,
It
and
is
there's the
divination.
debate of that, right? I also think it's interesting here too, because with electional astrology, and for anybody watching, whatever level that you're at or consider your level at, I think um, over the history of astrology, its electional astrology has pretty much been the pillar. And the typical questions that the king would ask of the astrologer,
Hmm.
when should we do the crops, or when should we do this, or and even in modern times, this basic stuff like I'm gonna do this business and incorporate the business. When should I do it? And it's pretty much the top thing I think astrologers deal with are these singular questions that come eventually. And
Yes.
electional astrology is the way, but it's something that I think one doesn't learn overnight, and it requires a rule set for one to stand upon and to eventually work with.
Right.
So yeah,
And that's why it does have a set of rules, is
yeah,
because you're electing things and you don't want to send the king into war and have him get killed because he's
hmm
gonna come back and get you, right?
yeah, yeah,
He's gonna go, what were you thinking?
yeah. Imagine if you're an astrologer now, you had that type of pressure on you, you would be paying attention to the rules.
Totally. You pay
Right.
attention to the rules. But also for the beginnery people, not to scare you off,
Yeah,
it's one of my teachers, Julian, always said it's really good to skate with the big kids because
yeah.
it proves your game. So come, even though you might feel like, oh, it might be a little over my head, because you'll learn stuff and then you can always go back and redo it. I have read that Moment in Time book maybe 7 times in my 30 years of being an astrologer.
hmm
So, and I learn every day. I learn every day.
Yeah.
So it's not, so don't be, oh my God, but it's a nice part to know about. And invariably, once people know you're an astrologer and they know a little bit about astrology, they'll ask you, is this a good time to do it? And you can, with assurance, give them yes, no, maybe, kind
Yeah,
of,
I'll tell you from the business point of view. You already know this, Anne, but
yeah,
for those watching, electional astrology from the business perspective, as an astrologer in your business, I'll tell you, it will fuel your business too. Is if you become very proficient with it over time, it's a type of thing that does bring in business. I mean, and there's that part of it too. I don't know how many times I've had other astrologers who do certain things, and that's fine, but they don't do election. They come to me, hey, can you refer someone who does electional? And so for that reason too, very important. So
yep.
anyway, that workshop is happening on Friday, May 23rd.
Friday, bright and
Friday.
early, I believe. Yes,
Yes,
some
bright and
ungodly
early.
hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
Laura
Um,
makes you get up early at the conference. Yeah.
yeah.
You can bring
Yeah.
your coffee and bagel. I'm totally cool with eating, so it's cool.
Yeah. No, again, for those interested, norwac.net is the website. You can see all the information. You can see the description here too for this pre-conference and all the other lectures.
Yeah.
Saying that, when we're into the conference weekend on the Saturday on the 24th, you're doing a lecture called Synastry. Let's talk about relationships,
Hmm.
which is
Hmm.
the other thing that comes up in sessions as one of the most important things with clients, right? So tell
Right.
us a little bit about that.
Popular topics. So
Yeah.
synastry is one of those weird words. And when you first hear it, you go, synastry. Well, sync, right? Synastry comes from sync of astri, the stars. How do the stars sync, right? So synastry is how your stars sync with another. And you have everything has a chart. Your dog has a chart, your partner has a chart, your kid has a chart. Our lives are based on relationship. Saturn is exalted in Libra, the sign of relationships. So synastry is, what do my planets do to your planets, and what's that magic that happens? So we will go through the basics of synastry. Again, you'll get some handouts. And part of the going forward energy is very much about partnering. And oh, they have Saturn on my, I'm going to go, well, Saturn on that point means time, because when you're learning astrology, go, oh, Saturn. But Saturn means you're committing. It's actually not a bad planet to have in synastry. What are the nodes doing? What is the karmic lesson you're learning from this person you're having a relationship, including your dog or cat? Or what can you expect? And then, of course, where the planets meet and they connect in your chart, when a transit comes along, it activates that. So it'll activate that part of your relationship. So we're going to do basic synastry chart to chart. There's a few other kinds. We're not doing those. We're just doing my chart to your chart and your chart to my chart, because it flips. And then if you move, you've got married and met him in California and you decided to move to New York, you get a whole new relationship because of everything changing. So we'll talk about the impact of location on charts also.
Oh, okay, that's great. Yeah, so that's sweet. That happens on the 24th on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday,
My favorite one.
on the Sunday, May 25th, Uranus in Gemini is what you'll be talking
Yeah,
about. So,
Uranus into Gemini. So Uranus takes 84 years to go around the circle of the sun, right? And to go around our chart. So every 84 years, we have a Uranus return. So the last time Uranus was in Gemini was June of 41. The time before that was the beginning of the Civil War. And the time before that was the American Revolution. So we are having our Uranus. And when you hear in the news, we've been with NATO for 80 years, I go 84,
right. Yeah.
because we aren't quite to the Uranus return. So we know the United States is going to have one. But for all of us, and many astrologers have a strong Uranus in their chart or a strong Saturn. And remember, Saturn rules Aquarius, right? So we're going to have a huge thing that we haven't had in 84 years. So none of us, unless you're Alfie Lavoie, who's 92, has experienced a Uranus in Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about what it means and how it works. Now, we had a little precursor this year with Jupiter in Gemini.
Yeah.
Because he's like, okay, let me make you do everything 2 times. Think of all the stuff you've had to do twice this year with Jupiter in Gemini. As Uranus goes into Gemini for 8 years, we're going to be going through 8 years of choice, 8 years of ideas, 8 years of which idea am I giving credit to? Or how do I make Gemini them talk to each other?
Mm-hmm.
How can we talk to each other? So Uranus has been in Taurus for 8 years. So everybody's gotten very grounded. And Taurus is considered a bad place for Uranus because it's fixed and it's so now suddenly Uranus is going to be, well, this and this. So it reminds me of, I was at a wedding anniversary for a friend of mine's parents' 50th anniversary, and we were her friends, right? So the 2 guys are fighting and they're fighting and they're fighting. And then they go, we can agree on Alan Mann being great. Happy anniversary. So it also represents a time when we're going to be able to find agreement. And at that moment, both of their wives relaxed, because it wasn't going to escalate. It was going to connect.
Yeah.
And so Uranus in Gemini is all about the connection. So we'll look at where it is in your chart, what your natal condition of Uranus is, how you feel about it. How do you feel about the Gemini house in your chart? Because Uranus is going to spend 8 years in that house.
Yeah. No,
and this is a big new cycle. We get a sneak preview. And then in October, Uranus slips back into Taurus. And then next May, he commits to Gemini for good, for true.
Yeah.
This is our sneak preview of the next 8 years. And it's a big deal. Yeah.
No, it's a huge deal. And I'm glad you're doing this here. I think it's interesting too, because it happens on the Sunday for many who are going to be watching online, like, oh, we're kind of ending the conference day with this, like what's about to come. And, it's basically within a little month and a half or less than that, the ingress
July
happens.
7th. Yeah.
The ingress happens. So that's great. Again, if you want to review what we've been talking about, these lecture topics that Anne's going to do, or any of the other speakers, you can go to norwac.net and hit the speakers tab. There's the schedule tab and an FAQ tab. I do want to say this here for those who are thinking about purchasing online. So, there's a room monitor in each lecture. And
Mhm.
what we try to do is whenever there's Q&A parts of a lecture, if there is that, we have a room monitor that's there with everybody online in chat that passes questions along to the speaker at the end of the lecture. So there's that. I'm going to probably open up a room along with Samantha on the back end who helps us online that facilitates. Like on the Thursday, we might just kind of have a pre-funk opening for those who are online. I know Saturday night online, there's like a party that they're doing.
Mhm.
Last year, I was sneaking in people Saturday night from in person to a room to talk to everybody online just for fun. And
Mhm.
there's breakout rooms. There's all these different things that we do online. And the other one that we do are these Q&As that happen. And in between the lecture slots, there's like a break in between, and we have Q&As for those online. And you're going to be part of a Q&A, Anne.
I am. Yeah. Hmm.
Going to happen on Friday, 4 o'clock p.m. I'm going to be facilitating that one. You'll be there with it will be yourself, Cameron Cassidy,
Okay.
Laura Nalbandian,
Ah, we love Laura.
yeah,
Yep.
Laura, and Christopher Renstrom.
Oh, good group.
Yeah,
Okay.
good group of people. I'll be there, and
We're all opinionated and we all talk a lot, so it's
yeah,
fun.
actually, I'm looking at the lineup here. It's going to be like boom, boom,
It's going to be
boom.
a chatty little room, chatty little
Yeah.
room. Hmm.
So, and we take questions from people online, or they present the questions, and it's kind of an improvisational conversation. And last year it was fascinating where we ended up at the end of the slot, and what happened there. So,
Well, and what that does for you as a person buying online is, you miss the experience of being able to walk out and talk to us,
yeah,
any of the faculty. And this allows you to have that opportunity, like we sit down and chat with you for a while. And then the other thing to remember is Laura is super Capricorn. So if you've ever attended an online conference and you were unhappy with it, you will not be unhappy with her. You will be pleasantly,
yeah,
gloriously pleased because she's tough. She's like, stand in front of the podium, do not move. Say that, repeat the question that the audience says so the online people can hear it. She's very, very supportive of the online folk. And
yeah. We
you have
have
a really good experience being
There's a
online.
lot of things over the years with this
Hmm.
hybrid model that it
Yep.
doesn't seem
Yep.
like big things, but something you mentioned, like, hey, we encourage the speakers not to move away from the podium so they stay on
Yeah.
camera. There's
Hmm.
live captions that are happening
Hmm.
when the
Hmm.
thing. So everything you mentioned, Ann, is there, and there's things I help with in the past with this, and
Yeah.
you do your best, but definitely Laura is trying to keep it as best as
She
possible.
really wants the online
Yeah,
people to have a really good experience.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Uh,
she's dedicated to that. It's not just, sign in and maybe catch a lecture. It's like, no, I want you to go away going, oh my God, I had a great time. And then next year I'm going to sign up early so I get to go to the real one. Right.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, because part of it is, it's to give you the real feel of how wonderful NORWAC is as a conference because it's very collegial. People get along. It's a friendly, open space. She has faculty that really are interested in working with the attendees, and she has attendees that are really like sucking the knowledge in. They come in
Yeah.
and they're like that. And I always love someone that's really into loving and learning astrology. So, I encourage you to sign up for the online.
Yeah, that's pretty much, I think what you just said there at the end, we go to these conferences in person or online because you want to talk and speak the language and whatever levels and meet people, strangers or just people that you've read their book and you get a chance to interact with them and realize they're a human being just like you and so on and so forth. So yeah, I do know over the years for helping out before we try to bring the energy that's the in person into the online space. And it happened last year. I had amazing interactions with people just in random conversations in the rooms and stuff. So
Mhm, mhm.
so again, if any of you are interested in any of this, you can go to norwac.net. You can purchase the whole conference weekend.
Yep.
You can just, like we mentioned, purchase just a pre or a post
Just the
conference lecture.
electional,
Yep.
just by
Just
me on Friday, but
just
I
could do
really
that.
encourage you to buy the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you do go to the 3 day weekend, and let's say you decide to also, let's say, go to Anne's pre-conference, there's a price break that happens there, a little bit of discount, stuff like that. So
And there's other pre-conferences and posts. And so the other part of it is being online is you can get those pre and posts in addition to, you don't have to go to just one because when you're at NORWAC, you can only put your little body in one seat. But
yeah.
here you have the universe of the pre and post available to you
Yeah, and
online.
that's the other thing about hybrid. And again, too, the other part of this is just recordings. And if you attend, let's say you register for the weekend, you have 2 weeks after the conference to go watch all the lectures, you know.
Right.
The pre and post are separate,
Yep.
but pretty much you have that too. So I'm be good to see you, Anna. We're gonna see you.
Yes, you too. Yeah, it's good. I'll see you in a month.
Yeah, see you in a
It's
month.
like, what is it today? It's the
It is. It was
we'll be
like
done.
less
We'll
than a
be
month.
ending the conference today.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Um, and yeah, and anybody watching, I'm looking forward to seeing you or meeting any of you online. I always try to throw a surprise at people on the online part, like I did last year. I have a couple little plans for some fun. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. But and thanks for joining me today and
You're welcome,
talking.
Nicholas. It was fun. Yeah. So everybody sign up.
Yes,
Best astrology conference in the world. My personal
yes.
opinion, but
41 years.
41 years. You know it's a quality product when it's 40.
41 years.
And it gets
Um,
better every year. I mean, Laura has Virgo in her chart too, so she always improves it every year also.
Yeah, no, it's there's so much to all this, but the there's it's a tradition.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's what's most carried over what people feel when they're there or online. They feel like they're part of something, part of this family, you know, that's what I love about it the most. So
Mhm.
and see you soon.
Yep,
And
Nicholas, see you in a month, less than
yeah,
a
see
month.
you in a month. Bye everybody.
Bye.